Who's today's John Stockton?
I think as long as he's playing, Steve Nash is as close as you're going to get to what John Stockton was about. I mean, the consistency in terms of shooting the basketball. Steve is one of the game's greatest shooters of all time. John Stockton consistently a 50% shooter, a playmaker, an assist maker. But I mean,
I don't see that.
You don't think
I don't as much.
Because of the offensive end of the ball?
I think
because of the willingness to score?
I think John Stockton, to me, played free throw line in. Like, he really penetrated the basketball free throw line in, where Steve Nash plays free throw line out. He's really a three-point shooter.
Well, now you're going to go into system, though, because one guy was locked into Jerry Sloan's half-court offense where it was
he got
run
selectively
and advance with the pass, which is something that I think that's one of the biggest things that Steve and John share is the willingness as a point guard to advance the ball on the pass and play. But their system.
But I wouldn't play if I don't know, Steve, Isaiah, if you were guarding them, my first thing would be make Nash drive. My thing with Stockton would be make him shoot from the outside. So I would think of them, I would be playing them totally different. Like, I wouldn't want Steve Nash to be a jump shooter. I would say I want to get him in the lane.
Or you'd say help if there was a pick and roll.
Oh, pick and roll.
Help.
You know, I think, John, I played against John since I was 13 years old. And, you know, he's a much better outside shooter, much better with the basketball. And when you're talking about, you know, Nash and Stockton, I just think from a toughness standpoint, I don't think there's a comparison. And I don't know if we have anybody in our game today with his type of toughness, physically or mentally. And, you know, when you played against John, I mean, you had to bring your lunch. I mean, on the offensive side and the defensive side, because, you know, there was a toughness about him that he carried that, you know, I don't know if we have anybody in our game today that really brings that to the table.
I would put Chris Paul in that conversation. I know they play differently and they look different, and Chris is much bigger, but John was one of the strongest guards in the league. I don't know if you guys felt that.
I got hit by one of them screens.
Yeah, he was, but the toughness, the competitiveness, I see a lot of that in Chris Paul, and the point guard mentality. What's happened today, you guys know, point guards are more looking to score. You got guys who really want to score. John was always looking to pass. I always feel like Chris Paul can score whenever he wants, but he's got a kind of an old school point guard mentality.
But, you know, I always thought like, you know, Stockton as a scorer, if he was in this game today with no centers and no big, I felt like, you know, he made Malone. I don't know if Malone would have been the type of player he was had he not had a Stockton. You know, and I felt like if Malone's not in the way and you put them in this game today, I think Stockton in this game, you know, he can score the basketball easily, get to the basket, and be just as good as anybody playing.
Now these guys have obviously shown that they have a firm grasp on where we're going with this show. When we come back on this edition of You Remind Me, it's who's the present-day Kenny Smith? Who's the present-day Steve Smith? Who's the present-day Isaiah Thomas? And on and on and on. Put your thinking caps on, and we'll be right back.